I wasn't born into wealth. I didn't inherit success. I started with doubt, debt, and dreams. But something changed. Not outside, inside. It began with a mindset, a decision to stop blaming and start building, to stop waiting and start working. Jim Rohn didn't just teach about money. He taught about identity, responsibility, vision, habits, and how those invisible forces shape visible wealth. This isn't a story of luck. This is a strategy, a system, a mindset forged in discipline and truth. So today, I'll share the money mindset that turned poverty into prosperity, not overnight, but for a lifetime. Let's begin. 1. Take 100% responsibility. Nothing changed until I stopped blaming the economy, my parents, my job. The moment I took full responsibility for my money or lack of it was the moment my financial future began to shift. Responsibility doesn't feel good at first. It's raw, humbling. It forces you to confront your role in the results you don't like. But responsibility is power. When I owned my mistakes, I also owned the ability to create new outcomes. Jim Rohn once said, "Don't wish it was easier. Wish you were better." That wasn't just a quote. It was a call to action. So I stopped avoiding my bank balance. I stopped blaming low pay. I started learning, asking, changing. You can't manage what you ignore. And the first step to wealth? Look in the mirror. That's where the CEO of your life lives. 2. Think long-term. Act daily. Most people lose financially because they think in days, not decades. I used to spend money the moment I earned it. I didn't think about tomorrow. I was living for the weekend, living for the next impulse. That was poverty disguised as freedom. But wealth thinks differently. Wealth thinks about later. Compound interest, investments, assets known of it works without a long-term mindset. Jim taught me that days are expensive, and discipline is the discount. I started planning, saving, thinking ahead. I realized that every dollar I spent was a vote for the kind of life I was building. Most people look at price tags. Wealthy people look at value. So I stopped asking, "Can I afford this now?" and started asking, "Will this create freedom later?" That mindset shift changed everything. 3. Create before you consume. The broke version of me scrolled more than I studied, watched more than I worked, consumed more than I created. Then I heard Jim Rohn say, "Profits are better than wages." That line hit me like a brick. I realized I was feeding everyone else's dreams except mine. So I flipped the script. Mornings became sacred. No social media, no distractions, no noise until I built something. An idea, a product, a skill, something that could grow, multiply, serve others. Creators build wealth, consumers fund it. Every day, you have a choice. Build the machine or power someone else's. I chose to build mine. 4. Never outspend your identity. No one talks about this, but your bank account reflects your internal thermostat. You'll never keep what you don't believe you deserve. You'll sabotage it, waste it, avoid it. Jim said, "If you want to have more, you have to become more." So I stopped just trying to earn more. I started trying to grow more. I changed my self-image. I saw myself as capable, valuable, deserving of overflow. And guess what? My income started catching up to my identity. If you feel unworthy of wealth, you'll keep returning to broke even when you earn more. Fix the self. The money follows. 5. Multiply instead of spend. Poor people earn and spend. Wealthy people earn and multiply. When I learned this, it changed the way I looked at money forever. Money isn't just for paying bills, it's a tool, a seed, a soldier. So I asked every dollar, where can you grow? Instead of buying liabilities, I started buying assets, books, courses, tools, investments. Jim used to say, formal education will make you a living. Self-education will make you a fortune. So I invested in myself, my skills, my thinking. I became a student of wealth, not just a consumer of comfort. Now, my money works when I sleep, because I trained it to. 6. Associations shape your income. You earn like the people you spend time with. I didn't want to believe that, but Jim was right. You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So I looked around and it was obvious. No one in my circle talked about growth. No one tracked their finances. No one thought long term. I didn't need to cut everyone out, but I did need to upgrade my influence. I started listening to better voices, learning from Mentor 7 from books and videos, surrounding myself with excellence, even if virtually. Your friends don't have to be rich, but they should be growing. Because if they're not, neither are you. 7. Build multiple streams. One paycheck is not security. It's vulnerability. Jim taught that wealth is not just about working harder, it's about building smarter. So I stopped relying on one source. I started small side hustles, freelance work, digital products, anything that multiplied income without multiplying hours. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. Because when one stream slows, another sustains. Wealthy people don't just work, they leverage. They scale. They diversify. Don't wait for a crisis to build your safety net. Start now. Even if it's slow, even if it's small, start anyway. 8. Value time over money. Poor people trade time for money. Wealthy people trade money for time. That's not just philosophy. It's strategy. I used to do everything myself, not because I loved it, but because I didn't value my time. Then I realized, time is the only resource I can't get back. Money regenerates. Time doesn't. So I started outsourcing, delegating, simplifying. Not because I'm lazy, but because I'm focused. Jim said, time is more valuable than money. You can get more money, but you cannot get more time. Every wealthy person I know protects their time like a treasure. Now, I do too. 9. Build before you buy. I used to reward myself with things I couldn't afford: new gadgets, clothes, subscriptions. I thought they'd motivate me. They didn't. They enslaved me. Jim taught me to flip the formula. Don't buy luxuries until you've built the foundation. So I created before I consumed. I saved before I spent. I earned before I enjoyed. Now, I still buy things, but they're paid for by systems, assets, value I created. And that's the difference. Wealth isn't about deprivation, it's about delay. Discipline now equals freedom later. 10. Reinvent your beliefs. Everything changed when I rewrote my financial script. I used to think money was evil, that wealth was greedy, that rich people were different. Then I realized those were just beliefs downloaded from broke people. Jim taught me that mindset is the foundation of every result. So I changed mine. I saw money as a tool, a mirror, a magnifier. I stopped saying, I can't, and started asking, how can I? I replaced guilt with gratitude, scarcity with strategy, hope with habits. Because the most valuable asset you'll ever own is your mind. And when that shifts, everything else follows. This journey wasn't fast, it wasn't easy, but it was worth it. Because now I don't fear bills, I don't fear recessions, I don't fear tomorrow. Not because I'm lucky, but because I'm prepared. Jim Rohn gave me a mindset, and that mindset became a map. From poor to prosperous, from broke to bold, from fear to freedom. So if you're stuck, broke, or lost, remember this: you are one decision away from a completely different financial future. And it doesn't start with money. It starts with mindset. Build and everything else will follow. When I shifted my money mindset, the world didn't hand me wealth. It handed me tests. Unexpected expenses, delayed payments, doubtful family, quiet months. But I kept going, because mindset isn't about hype, it's about habits, repetition, faith. The same way muscles grow under resistance, wealth grows under consistency. I didn't just think rich, I lived rich. I planned, built, and moved with the identity of someone who wouldn't settle anymore. And that changed everything. I stopped chasing fast money. I started building forever money. Fast money fades. Forever money compounds. So I created systems, routines, accounts, investments, boundaries. I stopped trying to impress people I didn't even like with money I didn't actually have. Now, I'm free. Not because I earn millions, but because I mastered the few things that matter. Clarity, consistency, control. That's real wealth. And I realized something else. You don't need a raise, you need a reason. A reason to wake up earlier, to save when it's hard, to learn when it's boring, to keep going when it's slow. Jim called it reasons that make you cry. I found mine. Family, legacy, freedom. And when your reason is strong enough, excuses disappear. So I stopped complaining about what I lacked and started working with what I had. Because the truth is simple. You don't get rich by wanting. You get rich by becoming. Every time I felt like giving up, I remembered where I started. The version of me that was afraid to open the credit card bill, that dodged calls, that said, I can't afford it more times than I could count. I owed it to that version to show what was possible. So I kept learning, investing, leading myself. Because wealth isn't about net worth, it's about self-worth. You rise in value the moment you decide to. Not because you've arrived, but because you've awakened. Here's what they don't tell you. Money doesn't solve all your problems. It reveals them. If you're undisciplined broke, you'll be undisciplined rich. If you're anxious broke, you'll be anxious rich. That's why mindset matters more than income. So I worked on me more than I worked on my bank account. Because if I became someone worth follow, money would follow too. And it did. Not all at once, but faithfully. I learned that most people aren't broke because of income. They're broke because of instructions. They were never taught how to think about money, how to plan, how to invest, how to multiply. They were trained to survive, not succeed. Jim's mentorship rewired me, not with hacks, with principles. Because once your principles change, your patterns follow. And wealth is nothing more than consistent, aligned patterns, repeated over time. I chose better patterns, and now I live with better results. One of the most powerful lessons? Don't just make a living, design a life. That line shifted something in me. I stopped chasing paychecks and started building purpose. I created products, brands, moments, movements. And the more value I created, the more income followed. Because money doesn't chase people who need it. It chases people who lead it. So I stopped needing and started leading. Now, I'm not just rich in money. I'm rich in time, relationships, vision, peace. And that's the real flex. I realized that every dollar I earn is a reflection of someone I helped. So I stopped chasing the dollar and started chasing the difference. Impact first, income second. And the beautiful thing? When you lead with value, money follows like a shadow. That's what Jim meant when he said, success is something you attract by the person you become. So I stopped waiting for success. I became it. And everything changed. The real wealth? It's knowing you can start over and still rise. Because what you've built inside can never be taken away. They can take the job, the house, the title, but they can't take your habits, your mindset, your mission. That's the foundation of lasting wealth. Unshakable, unstoppable, unbreakable. I didn't just escape poverty. I rewired prosperity. And now I don't just live it, I teach it, share it, pass it on. Because legacy isn't what you leave, it's what you live every single day. Looking back, the difference wasn't one big moment. It was 1,000 small ones. Choosing to read instead of scroll. Choosing to budget instead of splurge. Choosing to believe instead of doubt. That's the secret. Daily decisions. Small hinges swing big doors. I didn't need luck. I needed alignment. And once I aligned with wisdom, discipline, and purpose, everything began to align around me. Jim wasn't just a mentor, he was a mirror. He showed me who I could become if I stopped settling. So I stopped. And here's what I've learned after all this. Poverty isn't just a lack of money, it's a lack of vision. And once your vision expands, your limits evaporate. I saw a new future, one where I wasn't a victim, but a builder. One where my past wasn't a prison, but a platform. I turned pain into principles, mistakes into messages, setbacks into stepping stones, and wealth followed like a quiet, consistent echo. Not because I got lucky, but because I got intentional. You can too. If I could leave you with one thing, it's this. The best investment you'll ever make is in your mindset. Not stocks, not real estate, not crypto. Mindset. Because with the right mindset, you can lose it all and build again. But with a broken mindset, even millions will disappear. So I nurture mine daily with books, mentors, reflection, intentionality. Because my future depends on my thoughts and my actions prove them. You don't have to be perfect. Just plant it and water the seed every day. I used to think success was complicated, but Jim simplified it. He said, success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day. That one line erased all my excuses. So I built those disciplines, small, quiet, consistent. They didn't look impressive, but they built a life I'm proud of. Because success isn't loud, it's layered. And if you layer wisely, you never have to hustle blindly again. Discipline today, freedom tomorrow. Always. People ask me, what's the first step? The answer is simple. Decide. Not wish. Not hope. Decide. Decide who you want to be, what you're willing to give up, what you're willing to build, and then move, even if it's slow, even if it's scary. Because movement creates momentum. And momentum, over time, creates miracles. That's the path I walked. From poor to prosperous, from doubt to destiny. And you can walk it too. It starts now. I didn't wait for permission. I gave it to myself. To succeed, to grow, to heal, to win. Because waiting is the enemy of wealth. Jim reminded me, if you don't design your own life plan, chances are you'll fall into someone else's. And guess what they have planned for you? Not much. So I designed it. With vision, with habits, with hunger. Now, I don't survive Mondays, I lead them. And every day is a step toward a future I no longer fear. Because I built it on purpose. I don't say this to impress you, I say it to impress it upon you. Your future is unwritten. Your mindset is the pen. And every decision is a sentence. Every habit is a paragraph. Every day is a new page. Don't let fear hold the pen. Write boldly, build wisely, dream freely. Because the story of your prosperity isn't about where you came from. It's about where you decide to go next. And I promise you, once you taste alignment, you'll never settle for chaos again. I used to envy the wealthy. Now I understand them. They don't think in terms of limitation. They think in terms of leverage. They don't ask, what can I afford? They ask, what can I create? That's the shift. You're not here to count pennies, you're here to build purpose. So I stopped asking small questions and started living big answers. Every dollar I earn now is connected to a purpose, a mission, a ripple effect. That's wealth. Not just numbers, but meaning. So what do you do now? You decide. You decide that your past no longer controls your future. You decide to become the kind of person wealth is attracted to. You decide to rewrite the script. Jim Rohn gave us the blueprint. I followed it, and now I share it with you. Because if someone like me can go from poor to prosperous, so can you. Your next chapter starts now. Not with money, but with mindset.